In today's beading lesson, I have some ideas for how to use memory wire bracelets. Now there are some different styles of the wire itself, so let's go over that first. There are three different types. There's a standard round. You can see this one is called heavy duty, so it's about 40% thicker, almost half as thick again as the regular kind. So that's really great for using with large hole beads. There's also a flat style of memory wire that has a flat surface that you can wire wrap onto. So if you wanted to do something with large hole beads, for example, like this strand of graduated colors, the variegated colors add a really nice touch to your piece, and you would start out by trimming the number of coils that you want off of your bracelet. So you always want to make sure that you use a memory wire shear. If you use a regular type of shear, it can take a little bite out of your pliers because it's made of stainless steel. So just want to make a nice even cut there with your cutters. Then what you can do is take one side and loop it. And now I'm using a memory wire plier. So this is a finishing plier. It has a shorter bail tip that you can use to make the loops. So you just choose if you want a small loop or a larger loop. And I always recommend bending it against the natural curve of the wire. It makes it a little bit easier to turn because it's tempered. So if you try to continue the curve in the same way, it's just almost impossible to bend it that way. So to get started stringing, of course, you just hold this apart with your fingers, and rather than try to stretch your wire out from end to end, always maintain the shape of the coil as you're working. So I'm just going to thread a few beads on here and show you how I get them to the other end. Now when you're working with variegated colors like this, you could add a little charm in between, gives it a little bit of extra flair. And then when you're ready, you just kind of position the coil apart and then work them the rest of the way down. So you don't have to pull it all the way straight out. You just maintain that shape as you're working. Of course, it's faster than if you were just trying to kind of push them along to the end of the wire. Then you could continue beading that. Now another idea for this type of bracelet, because this is a thicker wire, you could wear this by itself without any beads if you wanted to, and just attach some charms or some beaded charms to the front here, and that would give you a really cute little stacking or layering bracelet that you could add in with other bracelets that you're making. Now for flat memory wire, you can, again, you want to use a memory wire cutter and make a nice clean cut and use your pliers to make a loop. And this gives you a surface for wire wrapping. So I'll make a bigger loop on this one right at the end. You always want to get it as close to curling all the way around as you can and closed. And then you can start some wire wrapping onto it. And I'm going to use 22 gauge wire, but you could really use any gauge that works for the beads that you're using. And again, I just kind of hold the coils apart with my fingers like this, and that allows me to get through those coils without bending the bracelet out of shape. So start coiling your wire on, and then again, if you're using some beads of different colors, this is a fun way to bring them onto the surface of the wire. So rather than passing this wire through, passing the memory wire through your large hole beads, you can pass this wire, shaping wire, around the outside. So just making a few coils to tack it down. And then you can add another bead. And I like to make them have a little bit of space between so that you're kind of embellishing the surface in between. You could go back and lay some beads in between there if you wanted to, or tie some fibers onto it. There are a lot of different ways that you can embellish the surface when it's flat like that. So I just continue wrapping this all the way around. Now another idea is to add some chain. So if you take a look at this bracelet here, this idea is that you're passing the memory wire through the bead and then through a link on the chain and then through another bead. So for example, you're going to take your regular size memory wire here, and I would just start out by adding one of my chain links. This is a very small cable chain, and then stringing a bead onto the wire. Then you need to bring it as close as you can to the end of the wire without letting it fall off here, and bring your chain link up. You might need to allow just a little bit of space in between the bead and the next link. And you're going to push this down, add another bead, and now I'll need to bring this back out so that I'm very close to the end, and then bring my chain link up onto here. And then you would just continue adding your beads and your chain links. So this is another technique for adding some texture to your memory wire bracelet. I'll go ahead and add my link on here. And you can see at the end, I'll bring this one over. I just made a basic loop using my bail making pliers. And here you can embellish that by opening it up with your chain nose pliers. And if you want to add some charms here, that's a fun way to add some extra flair to the end of your bracelet. Just passing this onto the loop. You want to get it open with your chain nose first, bring it on, and then close the loop back shut. And then that's another way that you can add some embellishment to the end of your bracelet. Now, bracelets are a high impact accessory that you could easily make tonight and wear tomorrow.